one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy. I'm looking a little bit tired in the face. I think the bags are starting to show up. I feel I'm starting to get a little bit sick, so I don't think it's really down to me being tired because I've been up for a few hours, but I've got my coffee as well, so I just thought I'd make myself a little bit, make myself feel a little bit better. But Daffy boy, first things first, mate. How are you?
No, I'm good, mate. I think it's only 106 days until our first game, so we're almost under the 100 mark, which is good, but also a little bit scary. But no, I'm feeling good at the moment. The draft's obviously just concluded yesterday with the rookie draft, and I'm quite content of the way we went about it and the way the list managers have kind of explained why we've targeted these players as well. I think that's a good thing as well, because I think sometimes in the past you might pick someone and they don't have that, that explaining, but we know that our list needs. You had a few holes in terms of probably a half forward like we drafted and a quick midfielder and kind of that rebounding defender to develop. So no, content, mate.
Yeah, no, me too. I think it's a really good way to put it, just because we didn't really need as many players in the draft, just because I think our list is pretty much set as it is. But I think you can always try and find some players here and there, and I think we've done that. And we probably didn't really expect to really feature in the rookie drafting, and we actually found a way to get a player in. So of course we are doing a draft recap of the draft that happened on Monday and Tuesday night, and of course yesterday with the rookie listing. But we'll start off. We'll get straight into it, and we'll start off with probably the star of the draft from our point of view, and it was pick 29, and it was course Ashton Moir, a forward from Glenelg, and it was a player that we kind of touched on in the preview. We were speaking about, I think, 5 or 6 players, and this is one of the players that came to your mind, Daffy boy, and straight away I think it was a player that we kind of were both excited about even before we even draft him. We kind of knew who he was, and from seeing the highlights that I've seen, just unbelievable with what he's able to produce on the field. And we spoke about before we press record on the episode, and just how he can kind of do the right foot and the left foot, and it just looks natural. And it's pretty much like Sam Mitchell. That's probably the player that comes to mind, where when do you ever see a player from a set shot where if he's not in the right position, he changes foot and he kicks it like it's just insane? Because Sam Mitchell was probably one of those players, and I think Ashton Moir is probably one of the players that comes to my mind that is able to be that skillful to produce that on the field, and hopefully he's confident enough to produce that in AFL level. But Ashton Moir, Duffy boy, what were your thoughts, considering it was a pretty late pick, and the talent that he has showed so far? What's your thoughts?
No, I'm excited about this pickup. Before we touch record, we'll have a good laugh about his talent. And but for me, at pick 29, it slid down so far. It was that first night of draft went for so long. I had the graphic ready from about fucking 4 weeks before, and I had to keep changing the pick that he was, because it kept sliding down. I was like, bloody hell. But we ended up getting him at 29. It started to become a little bit clearer. I think Adelaide had a good look at him based on the footage of the list managers room, where they were a bit worried that Adelaide might take him before us, which they didn't, luckily. And I'm excited by this pickup. I just think you kind of need these days, those half forwards that can kick goals. And I think the more attacking threats we have in our forward 50, the better. Obviously we've got Big Harry and Big Charlie there, down there, Jack Martins, Jesse Motlops. But I think this guy is that kind of mid-range, he's not short. He's 187, got good size about him, and he genuinely, I think before the draft he was a little bit pissed off in terms of he was rated in the top 5 earlier in the year, and obviously hip injuries slid him down. He's actually pissed off that he wasn't a part of those conversations. He said that. And he feels like it's a blessing in disguise, in a sense that he gets to work his ass off to get back to that stage. And I think that's what I'm kind of excited about, because he will fly under the radar. And I know a lot of people are talking about him, but I think when you're a little that late at 20 plus, I reckon no one really talks about it until you hit the ground running at AFL level. And I think he will, as soon as next year. I think he's that type of guy that can fit in a system like ours. And also you got to perform in preseason and get to work. But he looks in great shape for a draftee, and I'm excited, Patto. Really excited.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I think probably after pick 10,
Yeah.
the top 10 picks, that's when they kind of like talk about it a lot, and yeah, very much in the spotlight. And then after probably pick 10, yeah, don't really see it as much, and yeah, don't really the picks aren't really talked about as much. But it was quite funny, and I don't know if it was just because it was a Carlton player, but when Ashton Moir got drafted, I saw him a lot more on my page, and it was like
Yes, yes.
NFL and I was like, sorry, it's one of those players where, as you said, he was
Yeah.
obviously pissed off that he was a like a top 5, like potential top 5 pick, and he slid out to pick 29. But I think everyone else knows how good this kid can.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
kind of have to showcase where it's like it's a sliding pick because you're not a pick 5, but you now slid out to a pick 29. And as you said, then God, my throat is absolutely struggling. Sorry, I'm gonna have to see how we go through this episode. But pick 29, I think it's a good reset for him, but also for when he comes into like start training at the Carlton Football Club. It's going to be a good way for him to kind of. I mean, I don't think any draftees really ever over the top with their egos in terms of like
No.
maybe Harley Reid to a stretch because he's been talked about so much, but I wouldn't really
Yeah.
expect it. Where a draftee would walk straight into an AFL club and expect the bloody whole world to come to him. But I think he's got a good head on his shoulders as well. And he just seems like he's very much a mature kid. And once again, he's got quite a good attitude about him as well. Reminds me like a Jesse Motlop, just in terms of
Yeah.
a bit of a quite mature for his age, but also can crack a joke sometimes as well, and is quite a good character to have around the group. But to touch on his strengths as well, aerial ability, character, class, dual-footed, speed and vertical leap. Screams out Jack Martin, but of course Sam Mitch was touched on earlier. I'm very, very, very much excited to see Ashton Moir in the navy blue next year. But we'll move on to our next pick, and it slid out to, of course, pick 34, which is unbelievable. We started off with pick 22 and pick 28, and it slid out to 34, our second pick. But of course, it is Billy Wilson, and it's a defender that as we spoke about before we press record on the episode, that we kind of saw him as potentially a midfield next year at Carlton. But of course, he is a Stingray player. Yeah. So played for Dandenong Stingrays, and he was a small defender, but I think he was taking the kick outs and stuff. And his elite speed, elite skill has really been showcased through his draft year. And I think Carlton were quite interested in seeing how he would go in the midfield. And as we touched on before, he did play some games towards the end of his year in the midfield, and he looked very much at home. So I think I'm quite excited about this pick, Daffy Boy. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm quite pleased. It was a bit of a random pick for us. Obviously, like we always say, we're never in the four walls of the footy club, and clearly they targeted him. I think they targeted him pretty early on, the last few months. So it's always a good sign for me. There's a lot of thinking going on. There's no panic type picks where you're going, oh, we just have to take him. Obviously, they've done their research on the kid, and like you said, I think the elite speed stands out for me. Elite speed, elite skill. The way we go about it is quite a lot of pace, fast ball movement when we're going. And I think in the midfield, he definitely fits into that kind of, Chera, Walsh type, where they've got pace but also skill. And like Nick Austin said, he's going to go straight into the midfield group and train with them. So it's looking like he's going to be a midfielder for us and add to that depth. But yeah, I'm excited. I've watched a bit of his highlights as a midfielder, and yeah, he looks very good dashing out of the stoppage. He's kind of that inside-outside mid, exactly the same as Walsh and Chera. He's almost he'd be quicker than both of them, I'd imagine. At his peak, he's very, very quick. So, and like Nick Austin said, if there's our depth in our mid half back is we've got too many. We've got so many in there, so you're gonna have to push him into the midfield. But he said, when there comes a time, there's guys that can shift back, and he's one of those guys that can shift back and play that role. So I think that's exciting. A guy who can play numerous roles, but I think for me, I want him focusing on in the midfield, which he will be, working under Cripps, Chera, Walsh, George Hewitt. A lot of those good players like that, and it's a good thing to happen now because we've got a list that can help develop the guys under finally. 'Cause I think that's always been an issue at Carlton where, a Walsh might get picked, but he doesn't have as many role models ahead of him. I feel like Cripps has been there obviously a while, who would have been a role model for him, but they haven't had that, standout type like Walsh is now, and the A graders that Chera, and obviously George Hewitt's a professional as well, which you can't really disregard. So yeah, exciting times, and I think his family is actually in Essendon supporting family, and the dad had Bossy on the phone, or one of the list managers said, "I've never dropped Essendon so quickly." So he's become I was quite happy with that. The hatred with Essendon's always quite a nice little banter, but no, it's fantastic, and like we all say, you look better in navy blue, so it's good to see, and welcome to the club, Billy.
Yeah, it's really, really well, the Carlton Daf boy. So now we'll move on to the last pick, which of course was the rookie pick, and once again a bit of a surprising pick, and it's of course a combination of Jack Carroll and Matthew Cottrell. Yeah, combined together with Matthew Carroll. So, of course, God, the voices are struggling at the moment, that boy. Sandringham Dragons player, of course, he is a defender, but once again, I think he can play either side of the ground, whether he plays forward or back, but also he can play tall and small.
Yeah.
So I think he's very much a player that, versatile, but also when he finds that position, when he actually enters an AFL club at of course, Carlton, and when he can actually find his position and what is kind of suits his attributes, that will be the interesting thing. And I think, to me, with what I've seen of him, seems to be more of a defender where he likes to play in front. He doesn't like he kind of actually likes seeing the ball come towards him in terms of like a defensive point of view rather than forward. And I think the coaches are quite good at that, where they can kind of see potential in players, and they're pretty much like, very rarely you see it now where, well, you do see it in some points of view, but I think players, when they kind of get drafted to an AFL club, that's the position they kind of stay in. So I wouldn't even be surprised, like even like a Billy Wilson, like if he stays as a defender, I actually wouldn't mind it, because he played most of his football as a halfback, and the reason he got drafted is because he was a halfbacker. So that's why I think, you can 100% experiment these guys, because most likely in a team that we're playing in right now with Carlton, with a prelim final list, we're obviously very much up there in terms of a stabilised list. And I don't really expect these players to play, but it's a good thing to kind of use the next 2 or 3 years in the VFL, experiment these guys, see how they go in different positions, and then they might be able to find their craft in that one position. Then they can crack into the AFL side because they're confident enough from the VFL. So, but to touch on Matthew Carroll, Daffy Boy, what were your thoughts on this pick? A rookie pick, something that we weren't really expecting to come into the Carlton Football Club. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, rookie picks, I think a lot of it's based on upside rather than, what we've seen so far. So I think, we've got a few guys like Gav who are close to their 30s, Doc who is in his 30s. You need these kind of mid-sized defenders, versatile defenders to develop under them, and obviously take their spots when they finish up, or due to injury, etc. But yeah, I like his size. Obviously he's 188, and he's that kind of, I don't know, like Nick Austin said, I think he's similar to a Mitch McGovern in terms of he can play a tall or small, and I like his skills as well off the back flank. I think that's a huge thing as well. I think as a defender these days, I think you're often kind of criticised or judged by the way you use the footy. Obviously, you've got to be a good defender as well, but I feel like it's, the defending sometimes takes a back seat. And then when you see guys like Sard and you see guys like Newman and Wiedering and stuff like that, it's sometimes their games are actually based off their ball use and how they start our attacks. So I think that's a big thing for him. Obviously, he'll work under some good defenders at the Blues in terms of, Wiederings, McGovern's, Marchbanks. And, we'll have to see how he goes. Obviously, it's a rookie contract, so I think it'd be a max 2 years currently. I think draftees are now 3 years, which is good. So Harley Reid is now a 3-year deal. To make, I think it kind of eliminates that situation where they leave after 2 years. But me personally, touching on Harley Reid, I don't think he'll be a type of player that'll leave West Coast. But and same with these guys, I think they'll stay at the club. We've given the opportunity, especially with Billy Wilson and Matt Carroll. These guys weren't rated in terms of externally highly, but internally we've rated them highly, so they're going to have to repay back that faith, similar to Moir as well. We're backing in his upside, which is a freakishly massive upside. So no, I'm excited to see these guys down at training, and it's a good time to be a blue bagger, especially being drafted. It's a good time. There's some good role models there, and I'm just looking forward to see how they go.
Spot on. And I think it's actually a really good way to put it about the draftees and how they now are contracted to staying in that club for 3 years. Because what really annoyed me was that whole Horne-Francis, I guess the way that it planned out and how he left the club after 1 year. I reckon for the rest of his AFL career, I mean, I'm not the type of guy to boo, but I'm like, the clubs put all of their effort into drafting you as a player, and the least you can do is try and do everything you can to try and he may have many other I guess reasonings for why he wanted to leave North Melbourne, but I just think at the end of the day, this is just my attitude, where you just want to try and repay the favor where they have given you this great opportunity to go to an AFL football club. Surely the least you can do is try and repay them back and try and be grateful. But if it works out where you do want to leave, don't make it kind of secretive. Try and just be straight up front to the club and just say, look, this is where I'm at. This is where I see the future in my football career, but this is also where I see your club. I don't think I'm a part of it, and unlucky. And then that's when you start to sort out. I mean, we don't know what happened behind closed doors, but it just seemed very much like Horne-Francis was very secretive, and he knew that he was doing the bad thing, which just isn't right. That
was a tough situation. I think I completely get where you're coming from in terms of the loyalty and repaying back the faith. I think in that situation it was, North Melbourne were they're at a level where it's probably not the best situation to be in as a number one pick in terms of the environment. You can be a shit team, but in terms of where would you rather be right now? Or in that time, North Melbourne or Hawthorn, where Hawthorn are developing and they're still in the bottom four, or North Melbourne, who are kind of having troubles off the field in terms of, the president and all that type of stuff. So I think that actually gets me excited about Carlton, the way we're going in terms of our, the off-field stuff. We did perfectly at back end of the year in terms of the president, the CEO, all that type of stuff, not changing too much, not, sacking the coach, not, getting rid of presidents. We got rid of one guy that was on the board who was actually leaking a lot of stuff in terms of internal stuff. He went. All that stuff becomes stable now, and we start winning games of football. So I think if you're stable off the field, most of the times it kind of reflects on the field, and it'll be interesting to see how we start the year, because I think we'll start the year very strong in terms of stability.
Really well said. But out of these three players, Dave Moir, I know that I'm putting you on the spot. Are any of these players going to feature in round one?
The biggest chance is Moir.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, you never know. You never know the situation in terms of who's fit. Obviously, we've got another forward in Orazio who's also come into the club. So we've filled our needs, which I'm pretty pleased about. We've got two forwards in there. We always talk about the lack of depth after Harry and Charlie. So we've filled that. I think Moir for sure, in terms of he's got the size. He can play that third, fourth defender, fourth forward. What am I saying right now? I think with Billy and Matt, I think, plying their trade in the twos. Don't know how long. You never know. I never want to put a ceiling on players. So it really depends how each individual player kind of progresses. But it's going to be a tough side to get in, even for good players. So, and a player that we'll touch on now is Matty Cottrell.
Yep. No, spot on. And of course, the last thing we'll touch on for the shorter episode, which is of course Matt Cottrell being upgraded to the senior list. Even when I saw it through the year, and I'm like, this guy's still on the bloody category B or category A, whatever he was, list, and I'm like, how these guys playing senior football every single year, and we don't really know how much he was on, but we've kind of seen the category A and category B players and how minimal their contract is. I hope when he moves to the senior list, he is deserving of getting a long contract, but also some good money, because I think he well and truly deserves it. But at the end of the day, I don't think Matt Cottrell is anywhere near the type of guy that will take the money over the position. I think he'll definitely he seems like the player that's very much like he's grateful for his opportunity and he's not really looking for the money. He's just going to stay and he's just going to be loyal because, of course, he's one of our own. But David Boy, what are your thoughts on Matty Cottrell being upgraded to the senior list? Saying that probably was surprising because it's kind of come it was deserving, because I still can't believe he was still on the category A and category B list. But upgrade to the senior list, David Boy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's obviously a funny thing. I think there's a few players around the league that were on rookie lists that were surprising, but I think it kind of, for me, it shows the progression he's made when we rookie listed him. I think a lot of players, a lot of people talk about, let's pick up these underrated type players that can come in and progress and get into an AFL spot, and it doesn't often happen. And the way he's gone about it, I think he uses his strengths massively. He's always had those strengths in terms of pace, his gut running, which we saw in that Sydney final, which was craziness. And I think he's never going to be that guy who's going to get the long-term contract. I don't think. For me, sometimes the long contracts I'm not too big of a fan of in terms of, the 4 or 5 years. I think he'll be a 2-year type of guy. So, and that's not having a go at him. I just think he'll be that 2-year guy, work for that next contract. And like Ed Kerno said on the radio the other day, he didn't have a contract over 2 years. So I think it's a similar boat in terms of hard workers sometimes often, have to keep earning their contracts. And I'm fine with that. It makes them a bit more hungry sometimes. And, we don't want to drop in form. So, with the list we have, you have a bad week, you're going to be dropped. So it's going to be exciting. It's great to have the list we have right now, Patto. We've waited a long time for this. So soak it in, baggers, this next few months. And, come opening round or round 0, whatever the fuck it's called, we'll be ready to go.
Can we just quickly touch on that? I reckon it is the stupidest thing I've seen in my life. You've got 8 teams playing 4 games, and then in round 2, Carlton and Brisbane get the bye. So for 2 games, then we get a bye. What is that about?
Yeah, I don't know. But like I think Terry from Blue Broad said, when it comes to round 24, I don't give a fuck where we've got our wins and where we, it ultimately, like, it's a stupid idea, but I think, I guess it's something different and they're trying to something different. I don't know, but we still got round 1 the week after, the following week against the Tigers, and then we'll have a bye leading into the massive clash against the Kangaroos on Good Friday. So, it's going to be an interesting year. There's going to be a few more buys, I think, for teams. I think we'll have 2 or 3. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good year, Patto. Let's see if these young fellas, make their progression quick.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to when we go into that bye. We'll beat the Brisbane. We'll beat the Lions at the Gabba, and we'll beat the Tiggy Tigers at the MCG for the official round 1. But now, of course, that is the last thing we'll touch on, and this is probably the last sort of episode or content we'll bring out in terms of video for a bit of a pre-season. We'll try and touch on some stuff, and we'll probably try and do an episode just after Christmas and heading into 2024. But to all the I will just make sure that you get your last say, Daft Boy. Sorry, mate, kind of cut you off there. Is there anything else you would like to touch on?
Oh, not really. Obviously, we'll, like you said, post-Christmas, we'll do some type of launch video I've been, thinking of different ideas for that. So it's going to be exciting, and obviously it's exciting on field as well. So, make sure you're watching all the different podcasts because it'll get you excited and get your knowledge on players and, the fans' point of view, because I think that's why it's so important, these channels, getting, speaking on behalf of fans, but also having our own opinions. We're not always going to have the same opinion as others or each other. So I think it's a good point of view, and it's kind of skyrocketing, I think, around the league. There's a lot of different channels, and I think the mainstream media is starting to get less, airtime in terms of people are looking towards their more curated content about their club. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope you have a good crisp break, Patto, and viewers. Get some rest, take the mind off Carlton, and then we'll be straight onto the Blue Baggers in January.
Spot on. It's really it's a really good way to wrap it up, because there will be a lot of content coming your way, whether it's a lot of videos and kind of just some tributes coming towards heading into season 2024, because hopefully it is a big season for the Carlton Football Club, but it will be a big season for us at Baggers Chat. But as you said, Dave Boy, to all the viewers, make sure to have a great Christmas and a safe start to the new year. Dave Boy, Merry Christmas to you. It's miles away, but it's episode, but I'll probably send you a message anyway. And to all the viewers out there, need to make sure that the throat is cleared for this. To all the viewers out there, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Try and share the channel around. And heading into the new year, there'll be a lot of content coming your way. But to you, Daffy Boy, and to all the Blue Baggers out there, up the Baggers!
Man.